The ending of WandaVision is pretty crystal clear. The Scarlet Witch becomes the villain that the series revealed her to be. Now, I think this was kind of clear, but I guess not to everybody, including the Scarlet Witch herself, as Elizabeth Olsen recently talked about this, and she says that she was surprised to find out that her character was a villain in Multiverse of Madness.
So I waited a little bit to talk about this, not because of any specific reason. It was just on the back burner, and I was like, I think I want to make this into a longer video so I can really hammer out my thoughts on this and sort of reply to it with a longer video and really get into it. So in the first section, what we're going to do here is talk about Elizabeth Olsen's comments. So of course, let me read what the Scarlet Witch herself said at a recent appearance at LA Comic-Con. She said, and I quote, "I thought that it was an earnest cast, and I thought I was one of the good guys. And then 3 weeks before I was sent to London, they said, 'You're our lead villain,' and I had no clue. And I finished filming WandaVision, and I was like, huh? It would have been helpful to know that, just so I could have pulled that thread through a bit. But I think that the story told itself, and I was kind of able to message things in Doctor Strange to help tell a different story for her." End quote. Okay, so this has been discussed a lot by people. I've seen all sorts of arguments. I've seen people fighting about it, people accusing each other of not understanding the plot of WandaVision, not understanding the plot of Multiverse of Madness, of people being accused of being sexist, people being accused of hating men, people being accused of hating women, all this and that. I'm going to talk about this in a way that I think can cover everything in the next section. Maybe it's going to come off as offensive. I'm not sure. I don't know. Everything is offensive these days. But I want to get into how I don't think Elizabeth Olsen understood WandaVision. So in case you missed it, let me just go over the basics of what WandaVision is. The story starts with Wanda post-Endgame and losing Vision, moving to the town of Westview. Here, she loses all control of her mental stability, her rational thinking, gives in to anger, gives in to guilt and everything associated with her feelings. She snaps. She then puts a bubble over this entire innocent town. And she uses her power to mind control a entire town and make them be slaves to her fantasy of her perfect life. She puts everybody into her own jail just to live out her perfect world. Now, yes, again, this is trauma. This is anger. This is all these feelings bottled up that she lets out. She lashes out. Let's be clear about this. She wants things to go her way to the point where she loses all this control and she becomes the villain. And if you watch the series, the reason that the villain, in quotation marks, aka Agatha Harkness and then Hatham, appear at the end is because the series is emphasizing how Wanda is turning to the dark side, just like in the comics. And they take a different approach here. What they end up doing is showing us, one, what the trauma has done to her, but two, how she snapped with it. Like, I think it's okay to sympathize with her, which I think many people can. I think a lot of people have experienced some very lows that made them do things that they don't want. I mean, the Hulk, and I'm talking about now fictional characters, I was talking about real characters like us, we've done these things, right? But like the Hulk, when he becomes the Hulk, he does become a villain until he learns to control it. He causes massive amounts of damage. He destroys property senselessly out of rage. That was Stan Lee and co. coping with anger issues that we all have, and they put that into the Hulk because we Hulk out when we get really angry and become unstoppable. So looking at this whole thing and WandaVision, the story to me was always crystal clear and there from the very start that she was a villain, that she was a big problem in this, and that her trauma and everything that happened causes it. Now, people will say, well, it's trauma, and people have argued that that's okay and they can excuse what she did. Can you excuse her getting so angry and snapping that she abducts people, that she turns them into slaves in her own perfect world, that she's more or less torturing them to live in this reality, that these people are mentally broken and ripped apart? I don't think it's right to just go, well, that's what happened, and if you don't agree, if you see her as a villain, you hate women. I don't think that's fair. And this is the argument that people always bring up, especially people that are obsessed with this character, like the people that their avatar is Wanda and everything. They will excuse it and just say, you don't understand it, you hate women. And men and women get this all the time when this whole issue of Wanda is brought up as a villain. And I don't see why it's a problem to just say, yeah, she turned into a villain. She snapped. It's okay. Furthermore, going into Multiverse of Madness and the ending of WandaVision, she stole the Darkhold and flies off with it. The implication is right there. She is going to further pursue the dark arts. She was out of it at the end of WandaVision, and she knew what happened. Her entire reality and everything came crashing down, and she realized, oh, Vision, this is what happened with him. He was dead. I forced this Vision into life. And she still decides to continue. Moving into Multiverse of Madness, it's not about hating women if you like her as this character. Because I love her character arc in the MCU. I have since the beginning. I think that you look at the story that they told, especially in Multiverse of Madness, with who she is and what she's doing, this further makes sense in terms of WandaVision. She finds out about America Chavez and how she can jump through realities, and she automatically goes, I need her. If I get my hands on her, I get my children back. And this shows us that she hasn't fully snapped back. She's still suffering through grief. She's still in pain and hasn't figured out how to really deal with it. And she thinks getting children back will help. So what does she do? She enters the multiverse and goes after her own counterparts that have her children. Because to her, the end of the story is a happy life with her husband, but mainly her children, who were never really there in the first place. Her story's still being told and not complete. And she's obviously going to come back as a villain and possibly then turn into a hero at the end. And I think I know how they're going to do that. But I don't think if you call her a villain that you're a bad person. I just don't conform to that belief. So I like what they did with her. And I don't think a lot of people understand that it's okay to call her a villain and still say that it works for the context of the story. Especially with how they built the story from the start of WandaVision to the end of Multiverse of Madness. It actually makes sense. Thank you for checking out that video, and thank you for your continued support. Feel free to like, share, subscribe, do whatever you will, and if you're so inclined and would like some additional content from us, which includes unfiltered content and bonus discussions, we do offer exclusively in our member section. We hope to see you there. So thank you for watching, and have a good one.